I'm Julian Santos. I'm 28 years old, and I'm a school psychologist at an elementary school.
I'm Justin Ward. I'm 20 years old, and I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and I go to RPI for university.
Basically, I just lived how I wanted to without any regard for, thinking about the afterlife or thinking about what God wanted. I drank to excess. I put a lot of stock into relationships and material things and my career. And I knew eventually that I had to do what Christ wanted for me. I grew up in a Christian household, and but I just had no desire to do that for a long time.
Well, I grew up Catholic for a while, and in elementary school it kind of faded for me. And for the last decade or so of my life, I've pretty much been atheist out of a willful ignorance. It just was never something that I considered. And over time, as I got older, I realized more and more that there were so many issues with how I lived. I realized after a while how sinful my life was before I really began to follow Christ. I was a pretty spiteful person. One of the things that I realize now is how much greed and pride played in my life, and I was comfortable and complicit in being that type of person. I realized over time that how I was living wasn't giving me really any fulfillment, and so I knew very recently that something had to change in my life to give me purpose and meaning. And I found that stepping into the Bible for the first time in over a decade really started to change my life for the better.
So eventually, I started grad school, and everything kind of just started piling up, and I got to a low point, and I was crying out, and I was praying to God for just an answer. I was praying for direction, and I prayed for a Christian woman to come into my life, because I had relationships that affected me a lot and had a lot of influence on me. So I wanted a positive influence on my life in that regard. So I prayed for that, and I met my now wife, who at the time we hit it off, but she wanted a Christian man, and she wanted someone that genuinely wanted to follow Christ, not just follow Christ because she wanted to. And then from that point on, eventually I came to a point where I was crying out, and I prayed to God to forgive me for my sins, and I dedicated my life to Him.
I would say the biggest part for me in believing in the resurrection was really that it wasn't the suspension of reason, but the acceptance of it. Just after coming to know God and His might and power, it was perfectly logical for me to know that Jesus died on the cross and rescued us. Whereas before, my reason and logic would be, there's no way that someone could come back from the dead. What really helped me was the comfort that the Bible was giving me, and reading about Jesus' life and coming to the realization that through Him that is possible.
So I want to be baptized because I think it's the next step in my faith journey. I want to be baptized as an outward expression of my faith to show others that I'm declaring my life for Christ, and I feel like it's the next step in my faith journey. And Jesus was baptized in the Bible, and His disciples baptized others, and I just want to follow in His footsteps.
Baptism to me is the announcement of your faith, not only to everybody in the community, but to yourself. You're not only going to be held accountable by everyone else, but you need to hold yourself accountable for your faith And it is the recognition that the journey that I'm on is a lifelong one, and it's one that I will be on until I die.
When I first came to Terra, I was pretty new in my faith, and my wife and I had just started coming to the church, and actually were in the process of getting married, and the church wanted us to receive premarital counseling, and Pastor Bill offered to give us premarital counseling with his wife Katie, and I could just tell they both had so much on their plate, and they still met with us and just gave us a lot of really wise counsel. And we just are really thankful for the people at Terra. Some others, Pastor Tori, who was instrumental in just getting us connected to other people our age, and Pastor Rob just leading our tribe and just getting us really well connected. And we just feel really close to the people of Terra. And we have, I have those people to thank for helping me along my faith journey.
My first experience with Terra was honestly going into it again with a closed mind, but I arrived and the service started, and just looking around and seeing how happy everybody is, how joyful they are in their faith with Christ, and singing, and it was a really surreal experience. It was not what I expected going into it, because I always thought of church as you go in, you sit down, you listen, and then you leave. And yet I came here and it was the complete opposite of what I thought the church experience to be. And that really helped me and gave me a comfort that I knew that this is what I wanted in my life for myself. It's hard to imagine my journey and where I'm at without Terra Nova in my life over the past year.
I'm Julian.
I'm Justin Ward.
I'm a sinner.
I'm a sinner.
And I'm saved by the grace
and was saved by the grace of
Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
Amen.